Hi and welcome to another interview here at Evertiq Expo in Malmö 2025. This time I'm joined by Claus Aasholm from Semiconductor Business Intelligence, who just had a presentation about the ripples and tsunamis in the semiconductor industry. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You mentioned on the stage that the traditional ebb and flow 4-year cycle that we're used to seeing in the semiconductor industry has kind of been replaced. For the viewers now, can you elaborate what you mean by that and what it's been replaced by?
For sure. So we've been very much used to following the numbers of the WSTS. And they show pretty much a 4-year cycle, normally a quite sharp down cycle and a long up cycle. And over the last 3 cycles, it's been pretty accurate to about 4 years. In the prior cycles, we saw that all parts of the supply chain basically followed that cycle. So you could say that the tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
Okay. So all people needed to look at was the WSTS numbers and say, okay, we still have a year in the up cycle left. Everything is good.
Yeah.
But this cycle is different. We are, according to WSTS, we are now probably 2 years into an up cycle. But most companies are not feeling it.
No.
Okay. So we see the AI companies are doing great. And then people think, okay, the industry as a general is doing great. But if we look at the supply chain, the manufacturers of wafers, they just see flat to down growth still. And they don't have any good margins. So you see that all over the supply chain. Basically, most companies are not feeling the upturn.
But why is this, that we're not seeing the regular pattern that we used?
That's true. So if you look at the normal upturn, you would see that smartphones or the cloud revolution, you would see that actual, component quantity increased.
Yeah.
This is not the case this time around. Now you have the profits are increasing. So if you look at NVIDIA is getting their chips manufactured at TSMC.
Yeah.
So we're 2 years into the upturn. So TSMC should be running at full capacity, but they don't. They're at 73% capacity. This is ridiculous. At the same time, we're building fabs in the US and everything like it's needed. So you have this cycle is basically profit driven, and most of the companies are stuck still in the down cycle. Will maybe a little upturn here in Q1. So the old system doesn't work anymore, and companies cannot just navigate after a WSTS number anymore. They need more detailed information of what goes on in their area of the supply chain.
So is AI in some kind of way to blame for this kind of disruption in the cycle?
You can say that it's somehow to blame because focus is there, but there are of course other things. So you got the companies that are using hybrid manufacturing models. So they basically have their own fabs, and then they have their high-end digital made by TSMC, for instance. They are all stuck in a 10-quarter down cycle. Okay, and this is in principle nothing to do with AI. Okay, this down cycle, they are sort of looking at all their markets. They're down. Automotive, industrial, everything is down. And they're seeing a little uptick now, but they're waiting for an up cycle that might not come. And that in principle has nothing to do with AI, but probably a lot to do with China.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned China as well there, with different regions playing the long game. So I'm going to get back to that. But even though we're in a kind of a diffused cycle now, many countries and regions still remember the crisis that came with COVID. So
Yes.
a lot of countries are investing heavily to increase capacity.
Yeah.
Which country would you say, from your perspective, has the most valid strategy in doing this?
No surprise. That's of course Taiwan. And you don't have anybody in the government in Taiwan who doesn't understand semiconductors. Okay, they're not politicians. They're semiconductor people first, and then politicians afterwards. And for instance, you see that TSMC is investing a lot in the US at the moment. So right now they have 8 facilities planned, and at the same time they have 15 facilities planned in Taiwan. Because the facilities in the US are expensive, much more expensive than Taiwan. So the model that the TSMC uses is, 2 fabs can cover the cost of 1 American fab. So this is sort of the principle. And the Taiwanese government has also made a policy now that's called T-1. That means that you can only have the best technology in Taiwan. You are only allowed to export the T-1 technology. Okay, that means right now in the US they are producing 4 nanometers, while 3 nanometers in Taiwan, and soon there will be 2 nanometers in Taiwan and 3 nanometers in the US. But basically, they want to keep the best technology at home for that period. So, without a shadow of a doubt, Taiwan is having the best strategy overall. But of course, there's a lot of money in the US strategy. Okay, there's money everywhere in the US. So, from an economical perspective, it's very attractive to invest in the US. Yeah. But from all other perspectives, no. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned earlier that if you look at the numbers, we are supposed to be in an upcycle. But if you look at the companies or talk to the companies, no, it doesn't feel like that.
No.
So if we look at smaller European companies, what would you say would be the best strategy to ride out this kind of weird period that we're experiencing right now?
I think in Europe we're trying to create a big semiconductor industry, but we have absolutely no plans, or money, or anything else, or no idea of what to do. And I think that it's really, really key for European companies to align with the large industries that are doing well in their countries. Don't try and say, okay, we want to make EVs in Denmark, or we want to do a medical in Poland or something like that. Find out what is the dominant industry and make sure you align to that. If we're talking semiconductors, well, there's one area in the world where Europe is truly leading, and that is in tools, more specifically EUV tools. Yeah. And that is not just a company; that is an industry. Yeah. So many companies are part of ASML's supply chain, and their brain trust, and in principle, the most advanced semiconductor line is in Europe. It's not in Taiwan. It starts here and then it goes to Taiwan. So for me, it will make sense if you align yourself to that industry in Europe. Okay, that's the best possible place to be. And if you cannot do that, make sure you align yourself to a large and growing industry in Europe. Don't try and be alone. No, unless you got something that's really, really deep tech, then you can do that. I think that's my best advice.
Yeah, I was thinking now that what are some early warning signs of these ripples before the big tsunami hits that you think that the industry misses?
No, I think that we are too focused on the past. Okay, so we think that we've been through a cycle, and I've been through many in my career, and I have this sentence that says, every cycle is the same, but it's also different. But for the first time in my life, I really feel this one is this is groundbreaking. This is shattering everything. What we see in the industry is there's a lot of what I call corporate candy floss. So the CEO goes up on an investor call and everything is great, and sorry about we're down 10 quarters, but we are great. We have a great team. I'm from the day of the semiconductor cowboy. Yeah. Okay. They all had a fab and they all spoke the truth. They didn't care who were there. Now we have suits that are basically just giving candy floss to everybody. And what you need to do is you cannot listen to that alone. You need to look at the data. You need to look at the underlying data, what is going on in all areas of the supply chain. And that is what I do every day. So I cover 50 sectors of the industry, over 400 companies, and there you get a completely different image of what goes on. And I think everybody of these companies need to have good intelligence, so they know what goes on and don't just rely on a one-dimensional number from WSTS or from something their customers are telling them. Okay, go and do your own work, or else you'll make the wrong strategy. So I think data and facts are needed. Yeah.
So with the helicopter perspective that you accumulated now, and with the history or the knowledge that you have of history, do you have any crystal ball expectation for the remainder of 2025?
Well, so what we see is, so there's three big things that are pushing the industry right now. Yeah. So you have, you got all of the activities of the US government. So you have tariffs, and you have, your embargoes, and you have CHIPS Act money. Yeah. So these things are obviously disrupting the industry, but it's not changing demand. Nobody's going to buy one more chip because of all of this. Okay, this is just the supply that it's impacting. Then you have China. China is building a lot of factories, but if you build a lot of factories, semiconductor factories, that doesn't increase demand. Demand is the same. Okay, so those two are not increasing demand. AI is increasing demand, but it's the only one. Okay, so you have this situation where the entire upturn is driven by one thing. Of course, we can look into the future a little bit if we look into the investments of the cloud companies. And what we're seeing is that in 25, they're going to spend 48% more capex than they did in 24. So I'm relatively sure that this AI cycle will continue. Yeah. But that also makes it even more difficult for the rest of the industry. When the data center market is now 38% of the total semiconductor, what happens when it's 58 or 68, which it eventually will become? You have 71% of all of the memory Hynix is producing now, 71% is for the data center market. What if you need a DRAM and something else? Or flash? Okay, that's going to be quite difficult. Yeah. So it's completely skewing the industry. Yeah. So I think that's dangerous for the rest of the industry that will become smaller. So
pay attention, because things can change quickly. Yes. If there is an interruption or some event.
Yeah, if you buy something that NVIDIA can also buy, I wouldn't buy it for long, okay? Because they can pay anything. They don't care, okay? Yeah.
Good. Thank you for the interview. And
thank you very much.
I will pay attention to the market there.
Thank you very much.